Welcome to Business Reporter's Best of British Business campaign. Ask any UK SME and they'll say the same. When it comes to financing their next step, certainty and flexibility matter most. Yet frustrations remain. Traditional banks are often slow and restrictive, while some alternative lenders move fast. But is it the right solution? Reward Funding believes it has the answer. In this film, Group Managing Director Nick Smith and Operations Managing Director Steve Noble explain how. Nick, Steve, welcome. Nick, just give me an overview, if you would, the picture of SME financing in the UK right now.
Yeah, I think SMEs are lost, confused, challenged, don't really know where to go. Historically in the market, they'd always go straight to the high street bank. That would be the first choice and has been for many years. More recently, certainly in the last 10, 15 years, there's been a birth of alternative finance providers, and there's now lots of alternatives, lots of solutions, but also that creates some confusion because of the amount of providers that are in there. But there's definitely an industry shift from SMEs borrowing money from banks, more borrowing into the alternative finance market, and recent statistics from the British Business Bank suggested that for the first time, I guess ever, more funds have been deployed from the alternative providers rather than the high street banks, which is a real shift in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think the high street banks might argue that they've never left SME lending and that they are still service-led and solutions and whatever else they might want to claim. But the last 15 years and the sheer numbers that demonstrate alternately is why the growth of the alternative finance market has arisen, but is also why that confusion exists for SME borrowers, because their default option will traditionally be to the high street.
Yeah, and all they can really do if they're trying to raise funding, they've got lending is one option, the other option is equity or part sale of a business. But most of these businesses are people's, they're family owned, or they've been an entrepreneurial idea and they own it and they love it and they care about it. And the last thing they want to start doing really is starting to sell parts off. It's their pride and joy, effectively.
You have a clear absence of choice, would be my take on it. So equity is fine if you have a business of a certain scale and size, but your typical SME business, as you've just alluded to, is a family affair.
Yep.
It's almost certainly got less than 20 employees, has probably got less than 3.5 million of revenue, because that's what the numbers suggest. Borrowing is the only sensible, feasible option for expansion.
Steve, at which point do SMEs typically seek out funding? What are some of the triggers?
So I would say it's typically an event and goes back to that point. These are owner-managed businesses, and the owner wakes up and sees an opportunity, or it might be a problem, and therefore it's an emotive decision. There's a trigger of something that's about to happen, or can see an opportunity which he or she wishes to capitalise upon, and that puts them into the market of seeking funding. It's almost certainly event-driven. And
what are some of the barriers that stand in the way to SMEs securing that funding?
Have you ever tried ringing your high street?
Not lately.
So, I mean, we jest, but trying to get a bank to answer a phone, let alone consider a proposal, and far less give a decision of clarity and certainty quickly, because that's what people want, that is a real challenge for them. And that, therefore, the bank inertia is a real barrier to where people want to be.
Particularly around opportunity, because that's now.
Yeah.
You've got to grasp that opportunity now. You can't wait weeks, months in some instances to get a decision, because unfortunately the opportunity's passed the SME by and it's lost.
So tell me about your approach and how it differs from what else is out there.
Yeah, just picking up on that point I've just made there, our approach is more around trying to provide certainty and clarity at the front of the process, but also make a decision, stand by that decision, and then deliver it as quickly as possible. And it's not always about speed, as Steve alluded to, but it's about really giving the client the certainty that actually, yes, we can lend them funds, this is what the process looks like, and so that they can effectively conclude whatever they need to do from their own side with that sort of transaction. I'll give you a good example. So we've recently funded a garden centre business that had historically racked up lots of unsecured debt because he got the wrong advice and taken the wrong solution, which arguably was never a solution. racked up lots of debt, lots of cost, interest costs through the roof, short-term lending, always having to repay and re-borrow. He got the right advice from a commercial finance broker who brought it to us and said, actually, we can clear out all this debt, we can do some consolidation of the debt, reduce their payments on a monthly basis, put the business on a better footing and enable it to move forward in a more positive cash flow from there. The challenges around that are, well, it's seasonal because it's a garden centre, so you have to understand that element, which for us is fine. A lot of other funders run away from those kind of deals, which there's no reason to, but obviously it's busy in the summer, it's going to be busy at Christmas, so it'll build up cash reserves and then they'll dwindle as it runs through the spring. So, and we'd done that deal in 10 days, 11 days, but the client would have had certainty of funding within 3 or 4. So he'd know straight away where he was going with it. We stuck by the decision, we take the deal out the market.
Yeah, so speed is a relative term.
Yeah.
The more important, as Nick talks about, is certainty. So we will ask for and get the same information as a high street bank may do. We'll just arrive at that decision quicker because we're an SME business ourselves. Mm-hmm. We're a relatively small team with flat structures. We're able to make and take decisions quickly, but key amongst that is stick with it.
How do you arrive at those decisions?
By having the same information that the banks do. So it's not that we don't use technology, it's not that we don't use AI, but we don't use computer scored decisions. We will talk things through, we will listen, and it's really important that you listen to an owner manager, an SME entrepreneur, as to what their hopes and dreams may be, and to translate that into a story that's substantiated with fact that allows us to make a decision to say yes.
So can you walk me through the process then? I'm a client, I come to you looking for funding. What would the journey with you look like?
So we are typically, and this is something to emphasise, is most of our business comes through intermediaries or brokers. Those brokers will have, in many scenarios, a pre-existing relationship with us and know what we do, how we operate, the types of questions that we will ask. But we will sit down, we will always meet every borrower, we always go and see the subject business, and we will get the information, whether that's financials, whether it's valuation, whether it's forecasts, and we'll pull that pieces, all those strands of information together to make what often isn't a difficult decision, is it?
And what role does ongoing support play once you've made that decision?
Well, everybody would say they are relationship-led. I think we can demonstrate it, and I think you can look at the number of Trustpilot reviews that are out there that would validate that, and we're always happy to refer an existing client to see what it feels like client side of their experience with us. We have a dedicated relationship management team. So on every email, there is a name, there is a telephone number. That telephone will be answered by somebody who can say yes or no or provide support. And let's make no mistake here. Running an SME business can sometimes be quite a lonely place to be. So our ongoing support, whether that is counsel, whether it's challenge, whether it's restructure of the deal that we've originally written, they can have those conversations and we can be here to support them to do that.
Nick, what are the key takeaways that you'd like SMEs and intermediaries to leave with?
Yeah, I think for SMEs, they need to really make sure that they take a whole of market view. Don't get pigeonholed to going down the banking high street route, because that's what traditionally has always happened. We're a UK-wide business. Go after the commercial finance market. Talk to the brokers that are out there. They're all over the country, and get that advice and expert advice from there. What they'll do is they'll effectively provide a narrowed solution. So there's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of lenders, and the commercial finance brokers will narrow that down to people who can actually provide a solution. So my view would be whole of market, seek advice early, don't run off in a set direction and waste weeks. And ultimately probably ending up with a no.
So a point to emphasise about our business is we are a people-led business, people and relationships. And whether that is from a business development person who meets with the client and visits their premises and listens to their stories, through to somebody who will listen to you and hold your hand as you go through that onboarding journey, through to another person who is equally there to support you and listen and guide through the entire life cycle of that journey. And that is so key to us. It stood us well for 15 years. It will not change going forward.
Steve, Nick, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Nick Smith and Steve Noble from Reward Funding.